Okay, folks, hello and welcome. Welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you're chilling out with us on this beautiful Friday. Happy Friday to you wherever you are in this fantastic world. Hello, everybody. Well, happy Friday to you. You know, any day it's a Friday, it's a good day. At least it is for me. I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the weekend. I am ready. Let's go weekend. Hopefully you are as well. So a couple things that I want to remind everybody to do. I want you to go to our sponsor's website, and our sponsor's website is kgradb.com. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. And I want you to go to that website and subscribe. But don't forget, put Bishop as your promo code. You do that, you're going to get 30% off your subscription. So do that. You can go to my website if you're really bored, bishopjameslong.com. And of course, if you want to go there, you can. If you want to click on the class link, I have classes there for free. So we'll talk about that later on. BishopJamesLong.com. And of course, more importantly, if you want to go to the church's website, it's usocc.org. That is the church's website. Head on over there. If you have questions about that, there you go. So those are all the links. And I'll share them again a little bit later. I know I kind of went a little fast there, but that's okay. That's okay. We're just, we got all kinds of crazy. Bop it up. Okay. So, okay. I'm trying to, let me just do this real quick. And let me add, let me add them. I'm going to add Instagram to this live real quick. That way I can say hello to my, excuse me, say hello to my Instagram friends. So let me add this right quick, if you don't mind. So paranormal show. Yeah, I'll add my friends on Instagram. Why not? Why not? So yeah, we'll rock and roll with that. Okay, so we'll copy that and we'll go here and we'll save changes, and there we go. All right, now we're rocking and rolling, aren't we? Okay, everybody. Yeah. So again, I want you to go, folks. Please do yourself a favor. I love being a part of the KGRADB family. And again, I'll put the thing up there. There it is. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. Make sure you go there, guys. You know, they are our sponsors. And I love KGRADB. If you love the paranormal like I do, you definitely want to do yourself a favor. Head over there. But again, don't forget, put Bishop as your promo code. All right. Because you're going to get 30% off your membership, 30% off. It's already inexpensive as well. And it really is. This show, by the way, airs right there, KGRADB. And I'm proud to be a member of the family of KGRADB radio. So don't forget, Bishop as your promo code. I want to remind everybody again, if you want to go to my website, that's very, very simple. Just go to, again, bishopjameslong.com. And we're going to do sub chat only because we just, the trolls just can't behave like adults. So there you go, TikTok. Sorry, but now we have sub chat only. But anyway, you can go to my website at bishopjameslong.com. Don't forget that. And there's a class link. If you click the class, you can, I have the classes. I know I have the classes online for you, and they're free. Now, folks, there's a lot of work went into creating these classes. I'll be the first to admit, because I did it. So there was a lot. And I love doing it for everybody. But you're going to learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. Now, of course, if you want to make a donation to the ministry, you can certainly do so. We would appreciate that. You can just go to, if you take the class, originally I had it at like $49 and something, 99 cents or whatever it was for 4 classes. It basically came down to $12.50 a class. That's it. It's 100% online. So if you want to help with the ministry, that's wonderful. We would appreciate that because we certainly need the funding. And you can just go to my Cash App thing and the $ Bishop James Long. There you go. And again, the reason is we do that is, look, here's the deal. I don't get paid as clergy. Not one dime from the church, not one penny. And I don't charge to go to people's homes to help them. So I do this 100% free. While that's admirable, and that's nice, free doesn't pay for me to get to these people's homes. So I've got to come up with money for somehow. So, and the trolls get really nasty, and they started attacking me viciously because I had an online course, but yet they never once offered us to sponsor a trip for me to go to someone's home. They never did that, but they certainly did create hate. That's what they certainly did. Isn't that interesting? The trolls, oh, he's a fake bishop. He's charging blah, blah, blah. It was $12.50 a class. Get over yourself, troll. Nonetheless, if I help families, I'm only one person, and I haven't won the lottery yet. So anyway, if you want to go to the Cash App thing, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. So anyway, help us if you can. Go to Cash App and the $ Bishop James Long, all one word. Fair enough? Fair enough. Tonight, we're going to talk about a really cool topic that I am looking forward to. And it is a topic that a lot of people don't realize how bad it truly is. Cults. This is, thank you there, Bill. And again, for those of you on TikTok, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you. And for the trolls, I'm not going to apologize to you. I put subscriber chat only on because the trolls came in, and of course they had to stomp their feet because after all, they have to have attention. So we just put subscriber chat only, and then they scatter away like cockroaches. They just scatter away until we open the chat for everybody, and then all of a sudden they come back. That's how you deal with trolls. I actually did a presentation once on the Illuminati, and I think I'm going to do it again. You would not believe, though, it was interesting. Because I did a presentation once on the Illuminati, and I got something random. I don't have it with me, but I got something random in the mail, and it was a big, like an Illuminati, if you will, emblem. It was pretty large, and then a lapel pin. And the only thing there was no self-addressed. It was not there was nothing on it. So there was no self-addressed envelope. It was just addressed to me, to my P.O. box. And there was a little note in there. And the only thing that it said is, want to join? And then a question mark. Now, hell no, I don't want to join, first of all. And number two, to Illuminati, you have to be famous. You have to be rich. Well, that's a problem because I'm neither. So, but I actually I wish I would have brought it. See, if I unplug this, I could show you, but I don't know if I'd mess everything up. But yeah, it was crazy. So I got to, maybe next week, if I do Illuminati next week or the week after, I'll show you. But I couldn't reply to anybody because there was nothing there. It was just addressed to me. And now it could be someone playing a prank, certainly, but I don't know. That was kind of uncomfortable, but I'll show you. It was big. There's a big, huge emblem, a metal thing, and then it was a small lapel pin. And I'm going to do the Illuminati presentation, and I'll show it to you. I promise you. Yeah. Well, see, I mean, the Illuminati is supposed to be this dark, secretive organization that runs the world or something of this. I don't know. What am I going to do? So anyway, and for those of you, if you offer gifts to me during the live, if I don't thank you, I apologize. It's not because I'm being rude. It's because I run the show on 2 different computers, and sometimes I don't see it. So thank you very much for those of you who are offering it. Okay. All right. Let's go find some really cool ambient music for the presentation today, because I think we're going to talk a lot about. So it has to be royal free, because if it's not, then you'll get dinged, which I understand. I respect that. I mean, you have to make sure that it has to be royalty free. So then you're not, okay, I'm good with that. That makes sense. All right, let's see some royal free ambient music, some chill. All right, there we go. All right, so this is YouTube, Facebook. These are royalty free ambient music. So you have to do it. You have to let them know. Sure. That sounds good. All right, everybody. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. It's hard to find these things. If you guys know any decent like ambient music we could do, send it to me on Facebook. I have some, but what I need to do is put them in like a folder or something. All right, tonight we're talking about cults, and this is I think more frightening than you may think. So let's get into this cults, and then we're going to I'll answer your demon questions and paranormal questions, and because this is Paranormal Friday, and that's what we're here for. Okay, here's my presentation for cults, and hopefully you enjoy it. The mass unaliving, because you can't say the other word. The mass unaliving of 900 men, women, and children in the Guyanan jungle in 1978 brought home to many people the danger of religious fanaticism. The Reverend Jim Jones led his followers from California into an isolated South American village because of the pressures of the 20th century world and his conviction of an approaching apocalypse or a dramatic end to the world. Everyone outside that community was seen as an enemy, according to Jim Jones and his followers, his little private little club that he had, his little clique. And they preached that over and over and over again, that the enemy, that the outside world was the enemy, and the only way that you're going to be saved is if you are within the group, otherwise you were doomed. And this was a reverend, for those of you who don't know, because I believe Miss Wilma is out there watching, and she gets a little scared from time to time about these paranormal shows. So I told her about this, and she says, I might tune in. Well, they taught their followers that everyone outside their little community, it was an enemy, leading eventually to such a feeling of desperate persecution that all of Jones' followers, they were actually persuaded by him to take a lethal poisoned drink. 15 years later, in 1993, another leader made similar prophecies to his followers. They retreated, not to another country, but into a heavily defended compound where they stockpiled food and ammunition sufficient to withstand an armed military-style attack. And this community had come over a period of time to view those in authority as agents of evil forces directed against their chosen way of life. A simple approach from law enforcement officers brought about siege conditions at Waco, Texas, which ended in a terrible, terrible situation. Unfortunately, everyone, virtually, there were a few survivors, but everyone who was left in the compound in the buildings. Yeah. The charismatic leader, David Koresh, that's how he told a reporter to say his name. He said always is David Koresh, because he would say the shh is the voice of God. He had prophesied such a fiery end as the ultimate confirmation of the accuracy of his teachings. And since then, there have been people who have self-unalived in Canada and Switzerland by members of the Solar Temple cult. In California, another group believed that a passing comet had come to take them to a better world. We'll talk about that soon. For those of you who don't know that, it was a sign to them of Heaven's Gate. Now, the Heaven's Gate, for those of you who don't know, 39 young people, they unalived themselves. They believed that they were servants of a higher source, the name that they used for their group. And when their bodies were discovered, they were all identically dressed and lying neatly in similar postures. Which is interesting, so I'm going to show you something about Heaven's Gate. Another group called Aum Supreme Truth in Japan did not unalive themselves, but unleashed a powerful poisonous gas in trains in the Tokyo subway, affecting thousands of the city's commuters. And with this development, it became apparent that cults were not only a danger to their own members, but could pose a very serious threat to the general public. Perhaps the most worrying aspect of the examples already cited is the way young people and sometimes children are involved. Parents are naturally very concerned lest their own children are drawn into the activities of a cult and away from the principles that they have been taught in their families. And for those of you just joining us, I'm Bishop James Long, and today we're talking about cults and the dangers of cults. And some of these cults are just unbelievable. Warnings are sometimes given about different groups who target those who are young and impressionable. We need to know the factors which mark out cults and what it is that can make them dangerous or lead to tragedies like those in Jonestown or Waco. Jonestown was the town that they called Jonestown after Jim Jones in South America. You have to understand what Jones did. So Jim Jones was a very charismatic preacher. And it was during a time where there was a lot of division, there was a lot of race inequality, there was a lot of racism, and he would fight for equality amongst all people, which that in of itself was great. Had he just stopped there, I have no doubt that he'd probably be one of the most respected civil rights leaders in the United States. And many people believe that as well. And I truly believe that. Had he just stopped, when he was starting his ministry, he was getting horrible. I mean, it was serious threats to his life because he was arguing for rights for everyone. But he went too far. He went obviously extreme. And so he convinced these people to follow him. And these are people from all walks of life, from the educated to the uneducated, to the elderly, to the young, families with kids. And they left everything to go to South America. And they built their own little civilization, small little huts that they lived in and an area where they could go to gather and worship. And it was a terrible situation that happened. Terrible. And I'll go into that a little bit deeper into the story for those of you who don't know it, but it's horrible. So we need to first of all to determine the factors that create a cult. Okay? Is anyone who believes differently from us automatically a member of a cult? Well, no. Some literature circulated by various cult help groups suggests that any organization which does not accept the teachings of the mainstream Christian churches is a cult. But is it right for all nonconformists to be likened to the fanatical groups that I briefly just discovered and mentioned? Well, no. But so what exactly is a cult? Let's get into that first. Governments have struggled with the concept of outlawing organizations they believe to pose a danger, and have generally followed the definitions, primarily to determine which organizations are cults and which are not. So here's the important things to look at, okay? There are key practices which attract the designation cult, including the following. So listen carefully. Usually when you're dealing with a cult, there is idolizing one individual as the leader. So people look up to this person almost like a god, if not God himself. There have been cults where the leader declared themselves to be God. There have been cults where their leader declared themselves to be Jesus. So in this group, it is very much an idolization. They idolize this cult. And usually the cult is very charismatic. Also, too, activities designed to reduce powers of discrimination and deter questions. So starting asking questions when you're in the cult about this or that's kind of suppressed. You don't ask questions. You're told what to believe. You are told to listen. And you're told not to question the leader. And then there's a control of what members wear, eat, drink, and generally a complete withdrawal from general society. So this group begins to indoctrinate them and say, okay, you can't even be around your own family. You have to choose either us or them. This is what happens with a lot of cults. I studied this when I was studying psychology at Loyola University. I studied the psychological aspects of cults. And one thing that they do is there's a term called love bomb. And what that means is a person usually that's attracted to these cults, they're searching for something. They're searching for a group that they can feel to be a part of. Many times the person may be struggling with loneliness, whatever it might be, and they're searching for that group that will accept them. And so when they show up, they are love bombed. And in other words, everybody is just surrounding them and hugging them and welcoming them home. And you're so wonderful. We love you. You're going to add, etc. I mean, they really lift this person up. Lift it up. Okay, I'm on there. So, I mean, they really lift them up. And it is intense. It is intense. And they're overwhelmed with all this love. So all these factors and more are intended to make the group very close-knit. And they bond individual members to the group, but more particularly to the leader, who is usually a very charismatic and dominant personality. So while the group does the love bombing, it is always the leader is the primary focal point, no matter what, the primary focal point. And in the process of being bonded to the group and, more importantly, its leader, members are they're alienated from the rest of society. And in extreme cases, they are removed totally from society to live as if they have nothing to do with normal life. It is complete isolation. Now, some of the ways this isolation is achieved are distinctly worrying. So potential recruits to the group they're encouraged to distance themselves, even from family and friends, all those who are likely to have the greatest influence upon them. Separated from the previous context, the recruits are subjected to intense persuasion by group members. It is intense. When you're dealing with cults, this is something that it is unbelievably intense. So this peer group pressure quickly replaces the previous influence of family and friends. And then the group becomes the family and friends. And the leader becomes the parent. And then the leader begins not only to become the parent, but also, if necessary, to discipline and, of course, to praise when it's useful for the leader to do so. The recruits, they're overwhelmed with a sense of immediate acceptance. They get flattery, hugging, kissing, welcoming. They're never left alone for long periods of time to collect and recover their thoughts, and by an insistence on attending long meetings, which deprive them of sleep, any natural resistance is quickly destroyed. David Koresh would do this. So David Koresh, he would have huge Bible study meetings. David Koresh, for those of you who don't know, believed that he was God. He was Jesus. He absolutely told all of his followers he is the second coming. And okay, sorry, someone keeps texting me. I'm in the middle of a show, and it is overwhelming. And the effect of this withdrawal from society in general is often revealed only when an individual who has been attracted to a cult seeks to leave it. Great pressure is applied, psychological pressure, and sometimes even physical force to encourage the individual to change his or her mind. So if they start thinking, well, is this the right thing? That's stomped out immediately. Family members who have not joined the group are described as the enemy. And leaving the group is seen as a personal attack upon the leader, him or herself. So let's talk about this. Yeah, this is serious stuff. I mean, and what's scary about it is the dangers that go in line with this. And some of these leaders are Well, I think all leaders of cults are dangerous. I don't think there's anything good about it at all. And dependence on the leader is encouraged by a series of complex games with rules imposed by the leader. And gradually, members are conditioned to stop thinking for themselves. And they're strongly encouraged to accept unquestioningly the leader's decisions and teachings. Sometimes in some cults, chanting and singing form a large part in the repertoire of bonding individuals to the group. And it is well known that this practice quickly blocks rational thought process. It's like a form of brainwashing. Also, in some, and this is even more frightening, not only will they tell you what to think and how to think, but in many cults, you are required to have a special diet. And sometimes, often nutritionally inadequate. And recruits become more susceptible to suggestion, which would otherwise be immediately dismissed. So look, it's easy to see how this approach can quickly tip over into even more unacceptable practices, where a leader uses his or her influence to bind recruits to him or her, even through self-gratification domination. Now, the leader has many times favorites in the group, and they're granted small, but in really significant privileges, like giving them a sense of importance, while the less favored are encouraged to try harder to please the leader, and thus come even under more of his or her domination. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the groups that are just terrible. The careful use of illegal narcotics purchased on behalf of the recruit is another sinister way of taking control of the recruits' minds and lives. Sometimes recruits have to hand over all their personal wealth. Most of the time they do. So they have to give everything to the group. So if you have disability, or if you're retired, you're required to give all of your retirement to the group itself for their survival. You have to hand over your bank accounts, everything. Because what happens is, when you give not only your time and your whole entire personal devotion, and also now you're giving your financial security, you become solely dependent on them for survival. Even though it's your money, but it's no longer, because they say you got to help the group. So now, sometimes, of course, the more money you give, the better the accommodation that's provided for you. And so the reason is they do that is, so if you give more money than other people, and they say, okay, well, you get a bed with a bathroom attached to it, so everybody else tries to give more. The definitions that have been developed and the aspects which classify an organization as a cult, they are important when we come to consider minority, nonconformist groups. And in some literature published about cults, warnings are sound against the beliefs and practices of all these. I mean, these cults are really dangerous. So what about leaving a cult? How does that happen? One characteristic of cults is their unreasonable control of individual members. Great emotional pressure is applied to anybody who wants to leave the group. I mean, you want to leave the group, that's one of the worst things you could do. Yeah, and pressure is resisted, and all formal ties with the group are cut. The individual is completely shunned, treated as an outcast, and all social contact is ended, and the person is considered as good as unalive. They're just no longer even a part of it. And anybody who wishes to leave a cult, some cults will allow you to do that. Some will not. So let's talk about some of the cults that are active today. There's Happy Science. So in this cult, it's kind of a mashup of world religion, New Age, far-right nationalism, infrastructure spending, Japanese cult Happy Science. That's what it's called. It was founded in 1986. And it was by a former salaryman who was enraptured by a group called God Light Association. And he soon formed his own cult of personality, and that's called Science of Happiness, and changed its name to Happy Science a few years later. So this person believed that he is the human incarnation of a supreme being called El Cantare, who combines Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, and every other prophetic deity to create a 9-dimensional heaven with him at the head. Thank you, Billy. He's also created a massively complex mythology of New Age nonsense, while simultaneously founding a political wing called the Happiness Realization Party. This exists. But here's where the strangeness goes into overdrive. As his party advocates a vicious Japanese nationalism devoted to denying historical cruelties, advocating conflict with China and North Korea, and rebuilding Japan's infrastructure, the group claims to have 12 million members around the world, has a multimedia arm, thank you, and enjoys tax-exempt status in the United States. Another group is called Realism, and that's one of the most notorious cults of the modern era. It began in 1974 with a Frenchman named Claude Vorhelhan, and he called himself Rael. And he claimed to have a vision of an alien spacecraft in southern France that was full of beings who told him that humans were the future and handed him a Bible. And over 6 days, the head alien, by the way, the head alien's name was Yahweh, explained to Vorhelhan how the Old Testament is an actual record of humanity's early days, and that he must build an embassy to welcome the aliens when they fully return. This is a real cult. Thank you. For most of the next 3 decades, Aurelians were basically a kind of like a hippie cult that worshiped space aliens. And those opposed aggression. They championed science. They likened to be disrobed, and they like to be disrobed and have relations with what, it doesn't matter, with whoever, doesn't matter. They amassed a following of 20,000 people. They became very popular in Asia. And in 2002, things got even more weird. Raelian owned a company called Clonaid, and it claimed to have done the impossible. They said that they cloned a human baby, a baby girl they named Eve. And everyone then went nuts. With the White House actually thank you very much, thank you. The White House actually weighing in. The lawsuits were filed, claims dozens of other human clones popping up. By the way, no evidence of any actual clones has appeared. But the company continues selling embryonic cell fusion device for over $9,000, despite nobody knowing what it does. And people are buying this. There's another group called the Brethren. It's also known as Body of Christ, and also Garbage Eaters. This is an actual group. See, the Brethren, they are an apocalyptic offshoot. So they believe the apocalypse is going to happen at any moment. And they're apocalyptic offshoot of the 70s Jesus movement. They get rid of every worldly possession, every earthly pleasure, and to purify themselves for the coming in of the world. And Brethren members, thank you, essentially live as vagrants, doing odd jobs to survive. They eat trash, they avoid bathing and medical treatment, and giving away whatever money they have to the group. Yeah, they're actually called garbage eaters. They also forbid dancing and laughing until the return of Christ. You cannot, if you join this group, you are no longer allowed to communicate with your family. And they forbid contact between binary genders. By the way, the group founder, Jim Roberts, passed away in December 2015. So we really don't know how much about what they're doing now. Another group is called the Fundamentalist Latter-day of Saints. That's an offshoot of Mormonism that is constantly in the news for unsavory reasons. FLDS, as most of you know, again, is Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. The FLDS openly embraces polygamy. That means they can have more than one wife, which the mainstream, the Latter-day Saints, they outlawed a century ago. The group has anywhere between 6 to 10,000 members in rural Utah and Arizona, with the group having almost total control of 2 small linked border towns in 2 states. Now, while Mormon splinter groups have been around long before, the FLDS, the Fundamentalist, they were incorporated in 1991 by a group of men who've been excommunicated by the group. So they're not a member of the Mormon group, so just a church. They went through a range of leaders who all declared themselves to be prophets until being taken over by Rudolph Jeffs in 2002. And he passed shortly thereafter, and his son Warren took over. It was under Warren Jeffs that the FLDS practices terrible stuff, which I can't say because I'll be banned on TikTok. I mean, pretty terrible stuff. They also abandoned teenage boys, told them to get out because Warren Jeffs didn't want to have. Basically, they would force young girls to marry older men. They had no choice. They were forced. And the teenage boys, they were told get out of the community because the older men wanted the girls for themselves. Jeff, by the way, he was sent to prison in 2007. He continues, however, this is the crazy part about this. He continues to be the de facto head of the church, while his successor squabble for power. So this man, what he did, he should be in prison for the rest of his life. Never, ever, ever. Every single person who is every man who is in a member of that group should be put in prison. Forcing young girls, even at the age before 12, forcing them to marry these older men. It's disgusting. Disgusting. Another group is called 12 Tribes. It's formed in 1972 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The 12 tribes have gone by a number of names and have an international presence. They're formed out of the Jesus movement in the 70s by Albert Spriggs. So the group started as an offshoot for a prayer group for teenagers. But that broke off from the Presbyterian Church after a January service was canceled in favor of watching the Super Bowl. So spreading quickly around the South, the group embraced the peace and love, vibe of the hippie culture and sought to recreate the first century Christian church described in the book of Acts. And as such, they have no formal ties to any branch of Christianity. They practice Messianic Jewish beliefs that teach Jews were responsible for doing terrible things, which is stupid. And they seek to establish 12 Israeli tribes around the world to bring in the end of the world. They've also been accused of being a cult, which they are, and exploiting children for slave labor and tax evasion. They have between 2,500 and 3,000 members. And these people have 501c3s. The Nubian Nation, they're formerly known as the United Nubian Nation of Moors. It's a cult of personality based around the founder, Dwight York. Combining Christianity and ancient Egyptian iconography. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. They also have African rituals. The belief that aliens are coming. The nation believes that 144,000 chosen people will be taken away in a flying city, spirited to Orion to prepare for the final battle against Satan. And by the way, shockingly, York's mishmash of New Age concepts, it's a militant group, an ancient Egyptian religion caught in both the hip-hop community and the rural Georgia, where York built a massive compound made with donated funds, and his mythology grew, incorporating cloning, racial theory, cosmology, anti-government conspiracies, linguistics. So as the cult grew, York was under investigation, and he finally detained in 2002 for running a massive child trafficking ring, comprising of as many as 1,000 individuals. He was sent to prison for life. Good. His compound was seized and demolished. Even better. But the group still exists. In much smaller numbers. Thank you. Another group that is a cult, in my opinion, is the Congregation for the Light. It avoids the backwater compounds common to many cults, instead having its headquarters in the heart of Manhattan. But it has a much more else. Has much more. I think it has much more else in common with cults, including the all-powerful control of. Don't do that. Of one guy, bizarre racial theories, doomsday prepping, complex mythology, strange medical claims about cancer being caused by bad karma, that you're being punished because you have cancer. So stupid. Shunning those who break away, and a power grip on the personal lives of members. Oh, by the way, it marries off old men to young girls, and it enjoys tax-exempt status as a religion. The government really needs to start looking into these tax-exempt organizations. And they need to start removing these tax-exempt organizations. The Light only has about 200 members, but they're kept, virtually in seclusion. And most of the time, if you're a member of it, because you've been born into it. And most of their money comes from pillaging the estates of deceased members. It's insane. Some of these things are insane. Let's talk a couple of, we're going to get into some modern day, because there are some other, but let's talk about these people, because I think it's important. There are people in this world right now, who claim to be God. And what's even more frightening than that, as if that's not enough, is there are people who follow these people. So I want to talk about this. This is by the Monitor, and I think I want to share this with you. Recently, hundreds of mourners buried their self-proclaimed prophet, Wilson Bushara, Bukoto village in Africa. Bushara's followers spoke of how they believe their spiritual leader was miraculously rise from the grave and are waiting for the miracle. Bushara is certainly not the only man to have claimed to have spiritual high powers. So here are some people who actually claim to be Jesus or God. Bisaka is his name. He was Desteo Bisaka, a teacher and a Catholic catechist in Western Uganda until 1980, when he reported a revelation where powers to heal and save were vested in him. With his new conviction, he then left the Catholic faith and founded his own church, Faith Unity, in 1981. He changed his name and wrote a book his followers use as their Bible. And he believed that he was God himself, and people will take off their shoes and kneel when approaching in his presence. They also emulate this deity by wearing white clothing to worship and practice polygamy. This 83-year-old has 5 wives. Another person who actually was telling people that he was God, Moon Sun Moon. He founded the Unification Church, which had a large followings in the United States and South Korea in the 1970s and 80s. The church is famous for its mass weddings. It had huge weddings. And to mark Moon's 90th birthday, the church held a wedding of 40,000 couples. So Moon, who was born in North Korea, was raised in Presbyterian, claimed he saw a vision of Jesus at the age of 15. And it was revealed to him that he, Moon, was anointed to present the kingdom of heaven on earth. So still, he managed to go on and train an electrical engineer in Japan. He later moved to South Korea and founded his church. And Moon and his followers said that he was Jesus, reincarnated for the purpose of finishing the work of Jesus, that Jesus was unable to finish. Anyway, he believed humanity would be restored to perfection through a sinless generation, born of the couples that he blessed. At one point, he declared himself the savior of humanity, and that he and his wife were the parents of the true humanity. He passed away in 2009 at 92 years old. There's another one, Enri Cristo. Enri Cristo. This man's picture bears a striking resemblance to the depictions of portraits of Jesus. Down to even he wears white long robes. He wears the crown of thorns. The beard he has a beard and the eyes. I mean, everything. It looks just like the pictures that we see. Anyway, he believed that he is Jesus, and he told people. So the 66-year-old Brazilian is convinced that he is Christ reincarnate, and he traveled the world over 40 years teaching as Jesus. He was born, and he started, obviously, he was claiming that he was Jesus reincarnated in 1979. And after a fast in Chile, where he claims God spoke to him saying, I am your father, the God of David and Jacob. For his manner of dressing and his utterances, he became persona non grata in several countries. He also been arrested over 40 times in over 40 years. And people followed him. This is the thing. People are following these people. Jim Jones. Remember, we talked about Jim Jones. He was an American secondary teacher who found his true calling in evangelism. He founded a church called the People's Temple. And when he claimed divinity, he claimed to be God. He also cast a wide net saying that he was Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, and Lenin. Now, this man, he managed to grow the People's Temple to several thousand followers from 1956 to the 70s. For all of Jones' life, work, and claims to divinity, it was his death that he remains well known for. He passed away in 1978, along with over 900 followers who followed him to South America. The followers were forced to drink poison. Some chose to do it. Some just chose to accept it. They were willing to follow him. Let me tell you about Jim Jones a little bit, for those of you who don't know. Yeah, over 900. So he had this large following. They were in California, and then he decided that, okay, you know what, we got to go. He didn't like the big government and all this other stuff. So they went to South America. And when you went down to South America, you were forced to surrender your passport. You had to. You didn't have a choice. So you gave them your passport, and any money that you had to go to them. So if people were still collecting, like, disability or retirement, the money had to go to them. And everything had to go to Jim Jones. Everything. And, they were having some financial issues, but there was a family members who had contacted a congressman because they were afraid, because they hadn't heard from their family members, and they were afraid that they were, in this cult. And so this congressman decided to bring some reporters with him to Jonestown. And this congressman thought, in fact, that it was Leo, that he actually thought that, he would be kind of protected by the reporters, because these were heavy-duty reporters. These weren't just, rinky-dink. These are well-known reporters. So he kind of thought he was kind of protected by having reporters there. And the reporters thought that they were protected by having a congressman there. So they didn't have any type of protection as far as military protection, nothing. So they showed up in Jonestown, and Jones put on this great big huge festival for them, and everybody was singing, and everybody was so wonderful, and everybody was happy, and even the congressman said, I don't see any problem with this place. This is a great place. I don't know what the complaint was. What this congressman didn't know is, prior to him coming, Jones would punish his followers, even do terrible things to them. And then he would always say, white lightning, white lightning. And in the middle of the night, sometimes 4 or 5 times, over and over in the middle. So they'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they'd go right to the pavilion. And then he'd say, this was a test. And he always would do this because he told them, you always have to be prepared. You always have to prepare. So at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he would constantly, white lightning, white lightning. So they would show up in the pavilion. But that was sleep deprivation. And he would purposely do that. And then he was getting them prepared to drink the Kool-Aid, if you will. And let me do this puzzle. There we go. So they would kind of be prepared for this. So this congressman shows up with reporters, and the congressman is just blown away by everybody seems so happy. Well, they had to be, because Jones threatened his followers that if they were not happy and put on a happy face, that he would punish them. They couldn't leave. People say, well, why couldn't they just leave? They couldn't. Because number one, they had to surrender their passport. So they had no passport. And number two is in the middle of the desert. Not the desert, but the jungle. And then number three, he had militant guards surrounding the entire compound. So they couldn't just walk away. There was no way. There was no way for them to do that. So they were stuck. But these people, Jim Jones did a lot of fake stuff. At one time, I think he was in either Indiana or California. I can't remember which church it was. But this was all a setup. He had people, he has the leaders in his little group. And he had this purposely had this someone have a weapon. And there was a loud bang. And Jones then falls to the ground. And people are like, oh my gosh, he's been, someone had, did something terrible to him. And they let's call the ambulance. He said, no, just put me in the church. Put me in the church. So they put him in the church. And he said, just leave me. I want to be with my Father in heaven. Just leave me. So they walked out, and magically he got up. He had his shirt off, and he showed everybody that he was resurrected. Thank you, Dr. Ken. He showed that he was resurrected. He actually punctured a hole in the shirt to show where the thing, I got to be very careful with every word I say with cancel culture. And he showed them that he has survived this attempt on his life. It was all a fraud. And he convinced them that he was, in fact, Jesus. In one of his lectures, in one of his homilies, he picked up the Bible and threw it on the ground and said, you don't need to listen to that anymore. Thank you. He said, you need to listen to what I tell you. I am the word of God, not that. And they followed him. So these people went to South America with this terrible human being, took their everything. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Ken. Thank you. No question, it was demonic influence. But he was also addicted to heavy narcotics and heavy narcotics. And so this congressman showed up to the compound, and everybody was happy and singing and blah, blah, blah. Well, someone handed a note to one of the reporters saying, take me with you. And from there, the congressman approached Jim Jones about this, about the note. And that set Jim Jones off in a tangent. You can actually watch the interview on Jim Jones and the the reporter, the last interview. And he just, why can't you people just leave us alone? That kind of stuff. Well, anyway, there was like 19 people who decided to leave out of 900. And Jim Jones knew that this was the beginning of the end. And so the congressman then took about a few people with him back to this airport. That's the strip airport. And Jones had ordered his military guards to go to the airport and unalive every one of them. And the congressman lost his life, as well as some of the reporters. Some people survived that, and they told their story. So while the congressman had lost his life at the orders of Jim Jones was telling everybody who was then at the pavilion that it was time, that the U.S. government was going to come down and they're going to swarm it, and the whole world, that was it. This is the time that he'd been prepping them for, to drink the Kool-Aid. And he forced them. They didn't have a choice. They did not have a choice. And it started with injecting the children with poison. And Jim Jones sat there and watched it. And he told them, don't worry, you're just going to go to sleep. You're just going to go to sleep. I promise you. You're just going to go to sleep. That's why the old saying is, don't drink the Kool-Aid. That's where it comes from. So all these people were unfortunately, their lives were ending, and it was not an easy death. It was very painful. It was horrible. And Jim Jones saw it. All these people who had followed him gave up everything to follow this demon. And he saw how horrible their death was. He didn't drink it. He chose not to drink the Kool-Aid. Rather, he passed away with a weapon that was used because he didn't want to drink it after he saw everybody pass away they did. This is dangerous. This is dangerous stuff. There was a guy named also Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda. And this guy was evil. He said this. He said, quote, "The spirit that is in me is the same spirit that was in Jesus of Nazareth." And he said at that time that he had a dream when he was 26 where he had a dream where 26 angels told him that he was one that the world was expecting, that he in fact was the Messiah. And he found the Crescendo Gracia, which is Spanish for Growing in Grace Church in the U.S. And at first he claimed he was St. Paul reincarnated. Well, that didn't work out so well. So as the church grew to several thousand followers, Miranda upgraded his claim to be God. And at odds with his claim to be God, he also claimed to be the Antichrist, which he tried to explain was not evil. And then he actually had the number 666 tattooed on his arm. And many of his members also had the same tattoo placed on their body. So Miranda claimed that he was immortal, and he was reported to died last year from cirrhosis, a couple years ago actually, and his church members reportedly attempted to keep his passing a secret. These people are just dangerous, to say the least. I mean, truly dangerous. But I want to talk about this one thing. Love has won. This cult, and no question it was a cult, and it was a dangerous cult. For those of you who do not know, you can watch this on I believe it was HBO, and it's called Love Has Won. And I had a mother. She was a mother of one of the members. I had her on the show, and I talked to her about this. There is a group called Rising Above Love Has Won. If you have not seen this, guys, watch it. It will shock you. It's a documentary called Love Has Won, and it's a true documentary. So this family members who were concerned about this group, whose other family members, families who had family members were part of this Love Has Won group. So this group decided to create a group combating, called Love Has Won. So I asked a few questions. I said, what has Rising Above Love Has Won done since it started? So again, Rising Above Love Has Won was a group to combat this terrible group called Love Has Won. So she said, we've been in a place where family and friends of those who have Love Has Won could reach out and ask for advice, ask for help and resources. And so Love Has Won, for those of you who don't know, it was started by Amy, and then Miguel came into the picture. They believe that Amy, she actually believed and even said that she was God, Mother God, and that this was her 534th lifetime. She said she was previously Jesus, Marilyn Monroe, Cleopatra, and more. Thank you. And that our only purpose being here is to worship Amy, to be in service to her, is what they taught. Love has won. And they said the whole time that if Amy passes away, we all will pass away. And that if you don't worship Amy, you'll be recycled into the galactic sun. So she actually believed this. And they said that the reason Amy's physical body was so bad because she was being attacked, and her physical condition worse because of how humanity was treating the planet and Amy. So they all needed to get in the right action and get in the world in the right action so that we could all move into the 5D or fifth dimension where utopia exists. This is what they were teaching. And they also believed that she was Mother God, and that Mother God had a Father God. So she had a guy with her all the time who was considered Father God. And at the end of the main run of the group, when Amy passed away, that father god was Jason Castillo. And they believed that Amy would never pass away. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, RCD. Thank you. They believed that her body would just ascend and spirit to the starships and literal spaceship be taken away by the galactics. So this is what happened. I remember watching this group on YouTube a couple years ago, and they were just, I mean, they had live stream all the time. And Amy was an alcoholic, extreme alcoholic. There were many times you could hear Amy screaming at some of her members in the group that they're stupid, they're incompetent, they're blah, 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 that she wanted special food and they didn't make food for her the right way. But she called herself Mother God. And the documentary showed Amy pretty much like you would think that she is. And she only cared about herself. She left her young children and family behind to be a group leader. And she was very manipulative, very manipulative. One minute she loved you and thought you were the greatest thing in the universe. And the next minute you weren't even allowed to be in her presence. And that's very confusing to someone, obviously, and can really mess with their emotions and their psychology. So they were always trying to get back into her good graces, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And that's what they did. That's the classic abuse cycle. So Amy kept, she kept a crying child locked in a dark closet for punishment. She would scream at someone for not getting the food she wanted. And at first, people say that Amy was beautiful when the group started to grow, but there was always an underlying anger that snuck out every once in a while. She started out being an elegant speaker on spiritual matters, but as time went on, she was often drunk, very vulgar, screaming, threatening humanity, and cussing up a storm. I mean, what I'm telling you, it was pretty rough. She had a video with her being not very nice to a cat. And then there was a video showing her that the team was actually defending her actions. So she and the team are always online begging for money to help. And people donated. And she went from Father God to Father God to Father God. Whoever she fancied at the time, that person was designated as Father God, which of course makes the importance of the title seem silly. And as a matter of fact, I talked to a young man a couple of times, and I've asked him to be on the show because I would love to speak to him because he was one of the Father Gods. And he said that he would be interested in that. So we're going to see about hopefully getting him on and talking about what in the world happened, because he seems like a really great guy. And I mean, it was terrible. What the way she treated people. She was a liar. She went on Dr. Phil and actually said that she had stage 5 cancer. Stage 5. There's no stage 5. It's a complete lie. She never went to a hospital. Her autopsy, she passed away, by the way. It never said cancer. And she eventually was paralyzed from the chest down to allegedly to get more donations. And there is a documentary. If you have not seen it, look at it. And she was very abusive, mentally, emotionally. And there were some other ways. This was some of the ways that she would control people. It was common high control group tactics. And like I said, love bombings. People would show up. So they would have a house. And people would give up everything, show up in this house, and they would love bomb. Oh, you're so wonderful. We're so happy you're here. You are so needed. You're so important. Then they would change your name. Everybody got new names when they got a part of that group. Everyone, because it dehumanizes you. It separates you and more from your true self. And you were forced to hand over money, all of your money, because that's a way to control you. And if you see the documentary, someone wanted to go get pizza and they told them, no, you can't, because you're going to be told what to eat and what not to eat. They were told to cut off all relationships with their family and friends, leaving their children behind. And one woman even left her 2 children behind with social services in Europe when stopped at the airport because she had to go to Amy. Another left behind 4 kids. And she was one of the most emotionally abused by Amy and other members, by the way. What they also do is called sleep deprivation. There's a video on YouTube of someone being clearly sleep deprived, of Amy yelling and screaming at them. There's a video, there's a guy named Jason who was a member taunting one of the members who looks like a zombie because he was so sleep deprived. Also, there's food restriction. So they had severe weight loss in this group. Members were lying to local food banks to get free food. So live streams started as once a day for like an hour. And then it went for 1 for 2 hours and then 2 a day for an hour. Then they build up their chats and even had a radio station to have their followers constantly being fed their messages. I mean, it was all the time now. And so keeping them busy, it gave them active service to not think or just keep them busy. No time to think. So they were forced to write blogs, chat, doing live streams, making products, caring for Amy, writing down everything Amy does. Amy required all of them to have to carry a diary. So if Amy woke up today. If Amy drank some water, Amy drank some water, no matter what it was, because all focus had to be on Amy. They even trained members to turn on each other. Because if the one member didn't do what the other member was supposed to, you're supposed to run to Amy and tell. There was a lot of mental abuse and emotional abuse. They would single one person out and just go after them and tear them down, make them confess things that sometimes they never did on camera. And they would berate them. And trying to get people to succumb to commission, basically to live to the group house. And then once they do that, they control every waking moment. I mean, if they tell them to lose a finger or pass away, anything. I mean, people did it. I mean, you didn't have a choice. It was crazy. They made a lot of money, by the way, for this group. They always wanted donations, said it was going to be for rainbow schools, they called it. She wanted to build or to make basically Amy better. And so there was one time that Amy wanted a four-wheeler or something like that. I wanted one, and they were berating people. How dare you make Amy want this? She should already have it. Why doesn't she have it? You guys know that you're supposed to be, and people would donate. She got it. There were cell phone games. These grown adults were on there asking for donations for moms. They would call her mom. So they would go online asking for Mom's Game Fund. So in other words, Amy loved to go online and play games. So they would have Mom's Game Fund. And whatever food Amy wanted, she got. And whatever food that she allowed them to eat, they ate. But it was up to her. They travel around, stay at fancy, sometimes ski chalets and Hawaii homes, cost thousands of dollars a night. It was terrible. They had GoFundMes. They even had a GoFundMe for her to have a private plane. And people were donating. So here's what's even crazy about that. This is what's even crazy. So Amy began to have very serious health issues. And she would take a particular substance that she claimed was a healing tonic, and they sold it online at heavy doses. And it ultimately turned her it turned her like a bluish purple color. And because she had so much in her body. And so it was to the point where she couldn't walk anymore. And She told them, Amy told them she's not going to pass away. That she would ascend. Her body would never die. She would ascend, and that starships were going to come and get her, like literal spaceships. And there was a father god named Jason. He would actually go outside and throw a lighted ball up in the air and video it and say the starships were coming. I mean, think about this. Alcohol was not allowed except for Amy. No one needed a lot of food or sleep except for Amy. If Amy passed away, everybody passed away. So Miguel got involved, this one guy named Miguel, and he worked with Amy from the early stages and always in control of the finances and property. And there was a series of crazy. By the way, when she passed away, Amy did pass away. Miguel cleaned out all the accounts, took it and ran. There was $300,000. $300,000. Think about that for a moment. I would love to have a small chapel, a 50-seater chapel with a small little house, just small, simple. And this person claims to be God, claims to be Jesus, Marilyn Monroe, Cleopatra, and Mother God. And they have $300,000? Anyway, they did not take her to the hospital because they did not believe in that type of stuff, because they believed that their tonics, I should say, that they were selling would cure everything. Well, Amy did pass away. She did not ascend. She passed away. And the group was living in a small little house together. They were there. And here's where it gets even really strange. So Amy had passed away, and instead of reporting that to the authorities, she had her own private room. They decorated their room with Christmas lights all over. And they decided to put her corpse, her body, on her bed. And they decorated the corpse with Christmas lights. So they never reported her had passing. And she was there with Christmas lights around the corpse. I strongly, strongly encourage you, if you have not seen it, it's called Love Has Won. It will open your eyes. It will open your eyes. And what happened is the police showed up to do a welfare check on kids. And they wanted to know where Amy was. Amy Carlson is her name. And the father, I'm not even going to mention, I'm not going to say God because I think it's blasphemy. Anyway, the guy who claimed to be the Father God was saying that Amy has ascended. And the police said, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" So I actually have the video of this. They say Amy has ascended. And so and so the police actually went into this room. And originally they didn't know what it was. And they had this body cam where the officer looked a little bit closer, and they noticed that it was a body. At one time, Amy had reportedly told her followers, one time she had said that maybe she was mistaken. Maybe she wasn't God after all, and that perhaps maybe she should go to the hospital because she was really, really sick. Her followers said, absolutely no way, no. You've told us for years that the hospitals are terrible, it's evil, don't go there. So she is the one who conditioned her followers to believe that hospitals were terrible, that you don't go there, you just avoid them. And so when she was at her most vulnerable physically, the very toxic stuff that she was teaching came back and I'm like karma. So her followers would not take her to the hospital. It's called Love Is One. I encourage you to watch it if you've not. It's quite Terrible, to say the least. Cults are dangerous. Anybody who tells you, look, if you get involved with a group and the group tells you to basically worship this leader, that this leader becomes, it's a person you can't even question, then run away. Run away. Don't stay there. Run. Because that's not normal. When you have a leader of a group where they prop themselves up almost to be practically God, and in some cases they claim to be God, that's when you need to say, nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. And you run away. Because these people are, they are very manipulative. And they are master manipulators. And Love has won. They've changed their name now to, I think, like 5D Love or something like that. So Love Has Won documentary. If you just type in Love Has Won, you can see this on Wikipedia. But now it's also known as the Galactic Federation of Light and 5D Full Disclosure. So this is insane. She claimed that she was a 19 billion year old person. She birthed all creation, she said. And these people believe this. She was reincarnated allegedly 534 times. And anyway, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, some of the things when you look at this is like, what? But it is crazy. It is crazy. But I would encourage you, if you have not seen it, this will really shock some of you. Yeah, 19 billion. Yeah, it's on HBO. There it is right there. It's on, I'm looking at it now. It's on HBO or Max or whatever they call it. Love Has Won, the Cult of Mother God. And when you watch this, it'll stun you. And what's even I think more sad, if you will, is that people who followed her, some of these people were really smart people. In the same way with the Waco, Texas, the Branch Davidians, there was an attorney who went to Harvard, a Harvard grad school, from law school. So, and oh, by the way, the cult, Heaven's Gate. So Heaven's Gate was just that was a very strange cult. I remember this. I remember what happened. Of course, it was 1997. I remember this like it was yesterday. It was a new religious movement. And all the members passed away in 1997, purposely. 39 members. And it was known as Heaven's Gate. Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles were pretty much the founder. It was a mixture of Christian crazy stuff and New Age and ufology and all this other stuff. It was really strange. And they believed that a spaceship would show up and they would be taken up. But unfortunately, Nettles, Applegate's friend, Bonnie Nettles, passed away from cancer. And he was really, they would give everybody new names. Thank you there, Donna. They would give everybody new names. And these people were really smart people. These were not individuals that were uneducated. They were highly educated individuals. They would all cut their hair. Some men even had a medical procedure they had a medical procedure. You can look that up. And some did, some did not. And they were not allowed to be, sexual with anyone. They had someone that was kind of like their partner or their friend. So basically what happened is he convinced them. They had a huge house in California. And they call that the monastery. It's a 9,200 square foot home. They made a lot of money. At that time, they were really great with putting websites together. So they were actually, very gifted at that time. They paid $7,000 per month. And they always, paid the rent in cash. And so they had, it was pretty, Applewhite, he if you can see it on YouTube. He taped himself in a video called Doe's Final Exit. If you have not seen it, Doe's Final Exit. And he said basically the only way to evacuate this earth is losing the body. Because members believe that after they're passing away, a UFO would take their souls into another level of existence above human. And so they actually did. And they began on March 22nd, 23rd, in 3 waves. And they took some, obviously some medications that they shouldn't have taken, and they passed away. They all 39 dressed identical. They had black shirts, sweatpants, and branded a new black and white Nike Decades athletic shoes and armband patches reading Heaven's Gate Away Team. Heaven's Gate Away Team. They all had like little patch right here. And it said Heaven's Gate Away Team. And each member carried a $5 bill and 3 quarters in their pockets. And that was standard for members leaving the home for jobs, and a humorous way to tell us that they had left the planet permanently. The $5 bill was for covering the cost of vagrancy laws, and the quarters were for calling homes from payphones. Another former member stated that it was a reference to Mark Twain's story said that $5.75 was the cost to ride the tail of a comet to heaven. No such passage of the writing of the Twains is known to exist, but that would make more sense to me. But anyway, they all passed away, every one of them, and because they believe Halley's Comet was going to pick them up, and this is one of the patches. Let me move this down here. Where you go? Anyway, you can actually see that. And that's one of the patches. And sometimes when I do paranormal conferences, I'll talk about it. Yep. So, anyway. It's pretty serious. I mean, but they actually believe this, and they believe that doing this would somehow get them into, I guess a higher consciousness or a higher item. It's insane. A family member. But these are people that are brilliant. These are people who are not uneducated. And when you think about that, that's even more frightening, I think, in my opinion. I want to remind everybody also, I want to let everybody know that, I don't know why it keeps doing this. I'm going to have to figure out why. If I hold on to that, it makes it bigger. I'm going to have to stop that on my Mac. It keeps doing that. I want you to go to brucetango.com. Okay, everybody, I'm going to be at a location, and I'm looking forward to it. Let me just pull this up here. brucetango.com. Bruce Tango is, if you want to, let's see, hold on. I'm trying to find out. But he has a website now, and I'm going to be there, and we're going to have a little presentation. And I'm trying to find, there it is. Okay, so it's going to be at the Clark Holiday Inn. It's up in where he is, up in his area. I think it's in New York or something. But it is on January 25th. Clark Holiday Inn, New Jersey. So Clark Holiday Inn in New Jersey. I'm going to be there with Bruce, and we're going to have a really interesting presentation. You can go to brucetango.com, Bruce Tango, Tango, .com, and click on it says exorcisms. I'm going to have to let him know that's spelled there. So exorcisms, and we're going to be there. I'm looking forward to that. So that's January the 25th. You got to go to his website, Bruce Tango, BRUCE Tango TANGO.com. And that's going to be on January the 25th, Clark Holiday Inn. So make sure you check that out. Looking forward to that. And hopefully you are as well. So there we go. That's that presentation. Yeah, it is really, truly crazy that some of these people follow these things. And they do. Let me just find. Did you hear about this Tucker Carlson story? For those of you who have no idea, of course, I know there's a lot of people who don't like Tucker Carlson. I'm not talking about his politics, but TK Randall writes this. Listen to this. For those of you who don't know, I believe he was on Fox. I think. I don't know where he is now. But anyway, he claims that he was physically mauled by a demon. So the former Fox News host believes that some sort of entity physically attacked him while he was in bed. Carlson, who is certainly no stranger to controversy, made the claim while speaking to John Heers of the nonprofit First Things Foundation for an upcoming documentary called Christianities. It says that in my bed at night, I got attacked while I was asleep with my wife, my 4 dogs, and mauled, physically mauled, Carlson recalled. It says I was totally confused. I woke up, I couldn't breathe, and I thought I was going to suffocate. He went on to explain that his attacker had been a demon that left claw marks on his sides. As I walked around outside, and then I walked in, and my wife and dogs had not woken up, he said. And then they're very light sleepers. And then I had these terrible pain in my rib cage and on my shoulders, and I was just in my boxer shorts, and I went and flipped on the light in the bathroom, and I had 4 claw marks on either side underneath my arms and on the left shoulder. And they're bleeding. The attack, which occurred around 1.5 years ago, was described by Carlson as transformative experience and left him with an intense desire to read the Bible. Exactly what it was that attacked him that night, however, remains unclear, according to T.K. Randall. Yeah, I don't know. Of course, I don't know the whole situation. I don't know what's going on in his home now. I don't know. So I have no idea if in fact that happened. I don't know if it's demonic. I'd have to, people are asking me about that. I don't know. I'd have to find out what's going on in his home now or what happened then. There's so much more that you'd have to really find out before you can make a determination. Certainly it could be real. Sure. But I think I would have to look at other issues. So I don't know if he's having other issues in his home. Well, then reach out. I don't care if it's I don't care if a person is Republican or Democrat. I'll help anybody regardless of their political affiliation, and that's just how I feel. I'm not here to look down upon anyone if they're Republican or Democrat. So, but that's what I'm here for, to help anybody. So this is another one. This is really interesting. This is by Ethan Blackshaw. And this is really, it's a chilling Ring doorbell video, has been viewed more than 15,000 times on Facebook. The homeowner said that they had recently moved to a house in the middle of nowhere. So people have been left terrified by some chilling Ring doorbell footage. The clip was recently shared to the Ghosts of London group on Facebook, where people from around the world would submit footage of pictures or something they believe to be supernatural. So a recent post shows Ring doorbell footage from a remote property in some woods. Although it may have been perfectly normal at first glance, eagle-eyed viewers will notice a white figure ambling around in the background. The person who submitted the footage said, people watch at the top right-hand side to see what is being pointed out here. So I was notified this morning that my Ring camera recorded this in the middle of the night. Quote, just moved out to the middle of nowhere. Thank you. I've gotten really creepy vibe at times, but this is unsettling. And there are no neighbors around. And my house is on a fenced-in hill that makes it impossible to get up to and surrounded by forest. Any insight would be appreciated. So as I said, the video has been viewed more than 15,000 times. And so One person said, and that's enough for me to move. Another person said, yep, I'd move. For me, I'd like, let's go check it out. So you might want to check that out if you're interested. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you just never know. See, a lot of people ask me, what do I think it's demon? I don't know. Yeah, it's if you look on brucetango.com, and it's going to be at, let's see, the Clark Holiday Inn in New Jersey. I just go to brucetango.com, Clark Holiday Inn in New Jersey, for this event. It's in January the 25th. So Clark Holiday Inn in New Jersey. Go to brucetango.com. And he's been on a lot of television shows. So yeah. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, there you go. By the way, do you know that there have been presidents, speaking of the recent presidential election, regardless of who you voted for, don't care. There have been previous presidents who have claimed paranormal encounters by American presidents. They're actually, and this is by Andrew McRae. So Teddy Roosevelt wrote about a hunter that unalived by Bigfoot. So Theodore Roosevelt, the Batman of presidents, if you will, lived an exciting and varied life. He was an outdoorsman, rancher, hunter, naturalist, colonel, police commissioner, vice president to William McKinley, and even survived his own unaliving attempt in 1912. He proceeded to give nearly a 90-minute speech, even on as he bled freely from the wounds. So when Teddy Roosevelt tells a story about Bigfoot attacks, a lot of people say, listen up. But anyway, in Roosevelt's 1893 book called The Wilderness Hunter, he relates the story of a gnarled mountain German extract referred to simply as Bauman, who ventured out with a hunting partner to trap beaver in a pass near the Wisdom River in Montana. And I mean, this is pretty, by the way, a man had been unalive just a year before. But anyway, when they came back to their camp, it had been torn up like a rock star's hotel suite, the author says. So while Bauman salvaged dinner, his partner took to hunting a brand and to burning brand and went into a woods to follow the tracks. So anyway, he told Brahman that if it was a bear, it walked exclusively upright. So that night, the pair of Hendersons were visited by their very own violent Harry, only scaring off the creature after Bauman used a weapon wildly in the dark, but it returned and continued to stalk them, destroying their camp again the next day. So when Bauman went out again to check their beaver traps, he returned to find their camp destroyed for a third time and final time. It was under the wreckage that he found his partner. His neck had been broken. 4 fang marks on the throat. And those upright tracks were everywhere. Upright. And the body looked as if it had been played with and rolled in the dirt. And Bauman apparently left, obviously, and he was, can you believe it? And so he told Roosevelt the story. And I had no idea this existed. But this is in a book. If you have not checked out the book, take a look at it. It's an 1893 book called The Wilderness Hunter. And Teddy Roosevelt was an avid hunter. And he talks about this story. This would be a phenomenal movie. I think it would be. The Reagans believed ranged from Ronnie's obsession with early 20th century music, Manly P. Hall, and Nancy's use of astrologers. Did you guys know this? Nancy Reagan was very, very deeply involved in astrology. So they actually believe that the White House was most certainly haunted, no question. And so it makes perfect sense that they buy into the ghost stories of the White House, as Ronnie Reagan was so fond of retelling. Howard Taft, a man most famous for the false anecdote about getting stuck in a White House bathtub, also reported that the building was terrorized by the Thing. It was an invisible child-sized ghost. who went around grabbing the maids and goosing the butlers. The situation got so bad that Taft put a military aide on the trail, but did his best. He couldn't crack the case. Imagine that. And later, Harry Truman said that he knew the White House was just full of ghosts. And he wrote about it in his letters to his wife, Bess. In one, he claimed that he had seen the drapes blowing about in the Oval Office and imagining Theodore Roosevelt and Andrew Jackson arguing over there. Another time, he heard 3 knocks at his bedroom door. And but nothing was there. Truman was informed that all ghostly noises that he'd been hearing in the White House over the years, in fact, was the sound of shoddy construction falling apart around his ears. Okay, perhaps. Of course, Lincoln. We all know the story of Abraham Lincoln. One of the ghosts that haunt the White House allegedly is the most famous. Has got that'd be of Abraham Lincoln. So, Honest Abe is apparently a rather calming ghost, if you will, as Grace Coolidge, reportedly the first person to see him, discovered. The wife of Calvin Coolidge said that she saw Lincoln simply looking out the window of what had been his office. He's also been seen putting on his boots by Mary Eben, who caught him during her employment when she was working for Eleanor Roosevelt. Winston Churchill, staying over during World War II, got out of the bath and plodded across the room naked as he did, which, by the way, he did. And he spied. He actually said that he saw Lincoln sitting in a chair by his fireplace. And good evening, Mr. President, Churchill said around his customary cigar. He says, and this is when he actually saw this. Churchill said, "I'm afraid you have me at a disadvantage." But that's pretty interesting. The oddest person to have seen Lincoln's ghost has to be Lincoln himself. And there have been a lot of stories surrounding Lincoln's death. One apocryphal example is that Lincoln supposedly dreamed of a president passing away before he lost his life. In that dream, Lincoln is reported to have seen soldiers gathered around a casket. And when he asked who passed away, they answered the president. He was unalived by an assassin. That's crazy. And by the way, stranger, though, was a vision that Lincoln shared with his wife, Mary Todd, another seance enthusiast, about seeing overlapping reflections of himself in a single mirror on the day that he won his first election. That's crazy. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who absolutely believe it. Now, there's allegedly a shape-shifting demon cat. A cat has long haunted Washington, D.C. So these stories go back from the mid-1800s of the demonic cat that stalks between the Capitol building and the White House. And terrifying staff members and politicians have claimed this. And since living cats are already jerks anyway, with all those, this seems exactly like something a demon cat would do. Anyway, the cat is reputed to live in the crypt under the Capitol building and is apparently seen before administration changes and the national tragedies, such as the Lincoln and Kennedy assassination or the stock market crash in 1929. A lot of people claim that they have seen this cat. I don't know. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Yeah. I'm not I have never been a big cat fan. Not that I don't like cats, but I can't say that I don't like them. But anyway, a lot of people say that the White House is certainly haunted. People swear that it is. Is it? I don't know. I've never been. Movies. Oh, you're a dog. Yeah, I'm a dog person. I've always kind of liked dogs. I don't dislike cats, but I think I'm just a dog person more than a cat person. All right, let's talk about scary movies. Yeah, we're talking about all kinds of topics, aren't we? All kinds of crazy topics. I'm done with that. Put this over here. Okay. So let's talk about some scary movies. If you're interested, then let's get into some scary movies you guys can watch. Okay, spirits. Do you believe we roam the earth? I see. The thing is I don't think heaven is forced upon us. A lot of people ask me about ghosts. What are ghosts? I don't think I don't think heaven is forced upon us. So I think we have that option to remain here for whatever reason. That's just my opinion, because I don't think everything is a demon. I just don't. So some people do. I don't. Okay, let's talk about some scary. Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened there. 1 second. My stupid microphone decided to come off on TikTok. Let me fix this. I know it's loud. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is from this website. Is who wrote this? Katrina Yang. Katrina Yang. There we go. Yeah, I know. It's messing up there really bad. I have to fix it. Cheers. Okay. So let's talk about 10 scariest supernatural horror movies that will keep you up all night, according to Katrina Yang. I've never seen this. The Ritual dives into Forest Bear. So The Ritual. So it says here, without flashy jump scares and flat characters, The Ritual builds its horror on suspense, giving just enough glimpse while letting viewers' imaginations run free. Besides being probably one of the scariest movies out there, The Ritual is highly, highly rated. It keeps viewers up at night, not only because of the horror, but also because it's a cinematic masterpiece with a deeply engaging plot, creepy atmosphere, and symbolism. Have you guys seen this? The Ritual? Let's take a look at this. The Ritual trailer. Oh, I think I have seen this. Let me double check here. I think I have seen that, and I think it is pretty decent. I have seen this. Yeah, it's not bad. Have you seen it? I wouldn't call it scary. Of course, someone always messes their ankle up in a backpacking, or it's like, oh, really, seriously. It wasn't terrible. I haven't seen The Conclave yet, but I need to. So it's called The Ritual. It wasn't bad, but I don't think it would keep you all night. So that's something that's okay. Taking mostly, it's mostly in a dark forest. The 2017 David Bruckner character-driven film is based on Adam Neville's novel of the same name. It follows a group of friends as they embark on a morning trip in an unknown forest in Sweden. The reason the film is called The Ritual has to do with the supernatural figure and those who worship it. What happens in the film has the power to take every bit of one's curiosity and about nature and turn it into fear. I mean, I don't think it was that. The next movie that's on this list is The Grudge. So obviously, it's a very powerful horror movie that has managed to convince many people that it's based on a true story. By the way, it's not. There's people who actually believe that The Grudge is actually a true story. Folks, it's not a true story. The Grudge is not a true story. It's just not. Yeah. So anyway, it's about the story about a haunted house goes very wrong. And for those who are interested in urban legends, this movie is a must-watch, according to this person. It's about an American family moving to a cursed house in Tokyo, haunted by its violent past. And it doesn't take long before the curse on the house starts terrorizing the Williams family. A lot of people like it. Now, this, I will say, this is a decent, scary movie. The Descent. There's some pretty, first of all, I'm claustrophobic. So if you're claustrophobic, this is going to make you uncomfortable. I will tell you that now. The Descent is a good movie. It is unsettling and suffocating, taking place mostly in a cave. The film gets deep with claustrophobia and everything that comes with it. There are also two versions of the ending, by the way. In the UK ending, the protagonist realizes that her escape was only a dream, and that the reality is that she's surrounded by flesh-eating cave people. With a concern of it being too dark for the US viewers, the version used in the States replaces the original ending with a brighter alternative. If you guys don't know, there's two endings. So it's called The Descent. And for those of you who don't know, it follows Sarah as she goes to North Carolina with her friends to explore caves a year after her daughter's passing. And after discovering some cave paintings, they realize that their lives might be in danger. And interestingly, the flesh-eating cave people are the least horrifying thing in The Descent in comparison to the nail-biting claustrophobic anxiety it invokes. So to me, I would say yes to this. Also on the list is The Exorcist. We all know what happened with The Exorcist. I don't have to really go into details on that. This movie here, I don't think this was scary as far as keeping you up all night, but this Mama, it's kind of a weird movie, isn't it? Tells this tale of about a pair of sisters who are raised by a ghostly mother figure after the real parents abandoned them in the woods. And after disappearing for 5 years, the sisters are found alive in a cabin, but they have adapted a feral way of living, and their uncle and his girlfriend take them in. And while the girls struggle to live a normal, civilized life, someone or something has followed them all the way back home from the woods. This one, I will tell you, this one, there are some parts that like, wow. This next movie, I would agree. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. If you have not seen this one, it has some really spooky scenes. So a woman's body is discovered in the basement of a house where a couple was unalived. As a coroner father and son conduct an autopsy on the body, they begin to see strange things. When they find out, is really truly creepy. The dark and sinister film takes viewers on an unexpected ride with just the right amount of jump scares and horror. Yeah, Jane Doe was really good, really good. This next movie is called Hell House, which I've not seen. I have no idea. I don't know. I haven't seen this. People tell me that I need to watch it. I don't know. But anyway, the spooky atmosphere in Hell House delivers a deeply unsettling experience that many are having a hard time getting over. Similar to The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Hell House builds horror with subtly and little things. And there are 3 jump scares in the film that are absolutely devastating. However, the director doesn't go overboard with it. Instead, the film uses them effectively to keep fear alive in viewers' hearts. Oh, you think it's... Oh, Stacy said it's stupid. Okay. I haven't seen this. Okay, the next one is Smile. According to this author, generally not good for the faint of heart when spine-tingling psychological horror meets a supernatural thriller. Smile balances the elements of very brilliantly. Some horror fans even consider the film scarier than The Exorcist. However, for others, the terror lies in the after effects. Yeah, Smile. I guess The Exorcist really... isn't it weird? Maybe it's not. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, there were some jump scenes. The Descent, very uncomfortable with The Descent because I have claustrophobia. But The Descent and The Autopsy of Jane Doe is far more frightening to me than The Exorcist. That's just interesting. I just kind of the thought of that, just because I don't see The Exorcist as being fearful at all. This one is Sinister. Sinister is number 2. Ethan Hawke starred in Sinister as creatively drained true crime writer who moves his family to the victim's house for inspiration. He soon realizes how big of a mistake he has made after going over old film footage. So Sinister is supposed to be pretty scary. I don't think I've seen it. And of course, the number one that this person believes is, which I don't agree with. I'm sorry, I don't agree with this, but Paranormal Activity. With all due respect, I think there are far more frightening movies, scary movies than Paranormal Activity. I disagree with this. I don't know why it keeps doing it. Stop doing that. I've got to figure this out. So I have an iMac, and every time I open something and I move it, it always blows it up really, really big. And it doesn't matter what it is, what program it is, and it drives me crazy. So I don't know why it keeps doing that. I've got to figure out why it does it. But anyway, so Paranormal Activity, for those of you who don't know, do you agree? Okay, so what are some, okay, let me ask you guys this. Okay, Mr. President. Okay, tell me one movie. Let's do this. One scary movie that truly frightened you. What's the one movie, if you were to tell someone who's never seen a horror movie, but they really want to find a movie that really, really Scared? No, not the documentary. The movie. What would you tell them? Halloween, La Llorona, The Exorcist, Amityville Horror, Damien, Insidious, Conjuring, Nefarious, It, The Exorcist Original, Poltergeist, Hell House, The Shining. Boy, there's so many. Conjuring, Insidious, Delivers from Evil, Darkness Falls. What is the one movie? The one movie that you would tell someone watch and it will frighten you. So Host, 1408, The Omen. There's so many. Nosferatu, The Advocate, The Ring, Exorcism of Emily Rose, Blair Witch. Man. 1408? What is 1408? Isn't that with what's his face? I forgot. The Nun, Veronica. Okay, what is 1408? Let me see. 1408. Oh, John Cusack. I think I've seen that. It's been a while though. It's been a while. The Right. Okay, Jose, congratulations. You want a cookie? Okay, Jose. Okay, here's a cookie. Go tell somebody who cares. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, gosh, I can't believe it's already time. For those of you on Spreaker, I'm going to have to say goodnight to you guys. Folks, I'm going to stay on TikTok a little bit longer. So if you're on TikTok, stay with me. I just have to close up shop on the other platforms. So I'll stay on TikTok for about 15, 20 more minutes. But we have to sign off here because Mr. Producer has to run to another show. I'll be here. Don't forget, we have night prayer coming up at 9:50 on TikTok. 9:50 we start on TikTok, p.m. Eastern Standard. 10 p.m. we go live on Spreaker and, of course, on TikTok. So please join us for tonight's night prayer. And tomorrow I'll be here for open mic night with Judy Ann and Miss Wilma. And this Sunday we have Bible study at 8 p.m. Eastern. My friends, remember I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and never let anyone tell you or convince you otherwise. Mr. Producer just said Jaws. Jaws. The most scariest movie. All the movies that Mr. Producer could choose. You chose a fish. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, KGRADB Radio, Rumble. Good night.